Is over.
2 on a Thursday morning in Los Angeles. Temperature headed toward 100 degrees, smog level rising, traffic at a standstill, and suddenly the earth moved. A 6.1 quake near Whittier rumbled out across the basin, causing widespread damage, injury, and at least 7 deaths. But it wasn't a big one, just a nasty cousin. The quake epicenter was closer to the densely packed central Los Angeles area than any in the century, and it frightened people more than the more severe quake that killed 64 back in 1971. The major trembler and the 16 aftershocks of more than 3 on the Richter scale did heavy damage to older brick and stucco buildings, especially buildings with plaster facings. Windows were hard hit from the Burbank Airport Control Center to every storefront in the immediate quake area.
God forbid, I hope nothing hits us any harder.
As soon as the shaking subsided a little, we exited. I knew there were children out on the porch. I knew we had to get them out on the yard where they'd be safe.
The one in 71 kind of rolled along. This one was really abrupt. I mean, it was much more violent type of shaking.
It's scary. I believe it's scary. It scared everybody. Yeah, I thought this is the end of the world.
All across the city, evacuations, a convalescent center in Pasadena, several skyscrapers, numerous small apartment houses. Freeway 605 as it intersects Interstate 5 closed because of damage. And then the reports of death, a man buried in a tunnel in the San Gabriel Mountains, a woman crushed by a wall at Cal State Los Angeles, a man thrown from an apartment window. The reactions on live television, the most vivid. This, an interview for Australian TV.
Oh, there's an earthquake here in Los Angeles. My goodness, a live earthquake right here.
My God.
And I don't think anything's going to fall on me. I'm watching the lights. Are we still there?
At the hospitals, a steady stream of injured.
Most of the problems were actually fairly minor. People who were thrown to the ground, some people wound up breaking some bones or sustaining cuts to their face or hands from broken glass.
But again, from the experts, the admonition that this was nothing, really.
These may be more damaging in the city of Los Angeles, these kinds of earthquakes, than the big one on the San Andreas at a greater distance.
And we're always flooded with statistics.
Dina, Carol, can you give us the situation there?
Suzanne, I hope you can see what's behind me. What's behind me used to be an auto repair shop. Again, we're talking about unreconstructed masonry, bricks that literally fell to the ground. This building was built in 1906, but I have one happy thing to introduce you to tonight, and that's a man who survived this. He was a mechanic inside when the quake hit. I want you to meet Dave Adams. Dave, why don't you describe what went on?
We were standing in the air, and it felt very much like the shuttle coming down. And the floor started shaking. Will came around the corner out of the office. That's the boss of the owner of the shop. And he started running outside, and I thought, if he's going outside, I'd better head the same direction. And somewhere between the middle of the shop and the front door, I turned around and saw the roof of the building coming in.
How did you feel after you got out? I'm not going to ask you how you felt while you were in there, but how did you feel after you got out?
I felt fine.
You've been through this before.
No, well, 71 quake. But this is the closest I came to any damage, bodily damage to myself. I was more irritated about my tools and toolbox than anything else.
You lost your toolbox?
Yep, brand new. Makes me sick.
Suzanne, in a way, what Dave Adams has said typifies what most of the people here have felt all day, that they are in fact grateful that not as many people as was expected lost their lives. It is unfortunate that 6, possibly 7 people lost their lives in this quake, but the damage was not as great as could have been, according to the experts, as you mentioned before. And as you mentioned earlier, I was in Whittier, and earlier this evening I went to the evacuation center in Whittier, and there were people there whose homes have been declared unlivable. Let's take a look. Close to 200 people came through the Whittier Community Center throughout the day.
This family spent their rose the occasion porch. That's where they stayed all day. Dinner was cold sandwiches. There's still no gas in the house. The quake left little real property damage, but nerves are on edge.
I want to be inside just in case it happens again. I want to be out where no buildings will fall.
I just don't want to be inside if just it starts caving in on me.
Once darkness fell and it started to be time to think about going to bed, people here in Montebello and across Southern California are thinking about the shock they woke up to this morning.
This video was shot just after the big early morning quake inside the Hollywood Burbank Airport. It was evacuated, as were schools in most areas. Elderly residents of this convalescent home were moved after their buildings sustained structural damage. Near downtown LA, fire broke out in a shopping mall, sending a plume of smoke into the air. A collapsed wall here at Cal State LA killed one woman. A worker was buried while working on power lines here.